Haha, me thinks that the Red Wings had themselves a good offseason, and when it comes to the success of this team early on, I think this tweet from Nyquist kind of sums it up nicely here. Let's go over to Twitter and check out my buddy. I think a lot of people know Nyquist. He does a lot of NHL novelty type videos, and he does a very good job putting in research and editing into the product. But either way, this is the tweet. The Red Wings are 3-0-2, and Raymond, Seider, and Kopp really haven't gotten going yet. Yeah, I think it's fair to say the Red Wings have been pretty good. Even if some of the top-tier players have not necessarily been top-tier players. In fact, if you go over to who's leading this team in points at the moment, you have yourselves Dominik Kubalik, who is leading the team in points. He's got 8 points in 5 games played, 3 goals, 5 assists, plus the multi-point performance from last night against Anaheim, and he's been looking pretty good. So much to the point that he's gone out there and been one of the absolute staples of this forward core to kick off the beginning of the season. Which is kind of why I've been pissed off the entire time that Chicago let him go for free even though he was an RFA. They refused to sign him or even qualify his rights to keep him in their possession. They just let him go for free. What the hell, Chicago, were you thinking? Next up, for the Wings and their point production, you have Dylan Larkin. Of course, he's the captain. He's going to go out there and do what the captain does. He's got 7 points in 5 games played. David Perron has 5 points on the season. You also have Olli Maatta with 5 points too. So there you go. 3 out of the top 4 Red Wings point producers this season have been new acquirees. You could even say Sundqvist there too, because he was acquired by the Red Wings in the middle of last season. So all of these guys are pretty much new. Dylan Larkin is the only one that's been here for a while, and Steve Yzerman has really gone out there and bolstered this team for the better over the span of just a few months. Now, I really wanted to make this video about Kubalik specifically, because I saw this post on the Red Wings subreddit that I kind of really thought was potent enough to talk about. And of course, it goes over Kubalik and what he has been so far. I'm gonna be honest though, I actually haven't been watching too many Red Wings games because some of the sites that I use to watch National Hockey League material have been cough cough shut down, and we have more regional blackouts here in Vancouver than ever before. It's kind of weird how everything is being more restrictive as of late, but either way, just going over to the profile of Kubalik before we dive into this conversation. He's 27 years old, 6'2", 179 as a left-handed left-wing player. Initially drafted by LA in 2013, he never made the Kings and eventually went back to Europe, where he was a pretty good point producer in the Czechia League and the Swiss League. Eventually, in the Chicago Blackhawks system in 2019-20, his first season in the NHL. He was a 30-goal guy right off the hop. He was in contention for the Calder Trophy alongside of... who the heck was in the Calder race that year? Makar and Hughes, that's who it was. Unfortunately, he didn't win. The next few years saw him kind of declining in point production, with last season's 32 points in 78 games played being the worst of the bunch. However, his point production has really taken a big step up this season with the 8 points he's got in 5 games played. Let's do 8 divided by 5, multiplied out by 82. And you can see that Kubalik right now is on pace for 131 points. Now, does he hit that? I personally doubt it, but at the same time, it's a nice thing to be able to discuss right now. This is the post on the Red Wings subreddit that I thought was good enough to make a video about. It's from Call Me Willis. Kubalik is the player we thought that Zadina would become. Kubalik is a natural goal scorer. He plays with pace, throws his body around, and he has a knack for finding the soft spots. Zadina has skill, but no head for the game. Maybe something will click at some point, but right now, we don't really need him to be clicking with our top 6 depth. And a lot of the comments over here kind of say, yeah, Midwest Penguin agrees Zadina can only really play in the top 2 lines because he is strictly an offensive forward, he doesn't have the grit to play 3rd or 4th line, and he's not good enough to play top 2. Kubalik, however, can fill in on any line 1 to 4. The English nerd says it feels like if Zadina hits 3 games without a point, he gets a massive monkey on his back that grows exponentially until he scores. And for Kubalik, obviously it's kind of easy to say that there's a stylistic comparison there because they're both from Czechia. I mean, not to say that all Czech hockey players play the same, but it's just kind of nice to see that connection there. But for Dominik Kubalik, everything that you kind of wanted out of Zadina over the past few years is sort of there. Kubalik knows where he needs to be on the ice to open up shooting lanes. When he has the puck on his stick, he does not go out there and miss his opportunities. He had 30 goals in his first season for a reason. It's why he was even in contention for that Calder Trophy. He was always such a good goal scorer that now in the Red Wings system, seeing what he's been doing, just facilitating offense the right way, being in the right positions, making the right reads, and also being physical enough to justify saying, yeah, no, if you have Kubalik on your third line, that's not necessarily a waste, quote-unquote, of his talent, because you still have tangibles in his game that allow him to play what a third line should be able to do. For Filip Zadina the past few years, it's unfortunately been a tale of, hey, we'll just wait and see where he goes from here. Let's see where he's at in the next few months. Let's see where he's at after he gets a little bit more consistency. Sure, the earlier parts of Zadina's career with the Red Wings were kind of focusing on two-way development and board battles and not really on his goal scoring, which was a prime part of why he was even drafted 6th overall in 2018 in the first place. Debatably, he should have gone a lot higher when discussing all the draft hype for Zadina in the first place, but at the end of the day, he did indeed slip down, and he has not really had that same, I don't know if spark is the right word to use, but he hasn't translated in the ways that Red Wings fans have wanted him to now for years. We've always given him the benefit of the doubt because we always knew that there was a good enough hockey player here to play in the National Hockey League. It's just, at what point do you say, okay, well, unfortunately your spot has been taken by somebody else because you haven't given us what we've been needing out of you, Filip. I know that he hasn't played all the games this season, and I know he's only 22 years old. Heck, the guy's in the same draft class as me. I was born in the year 2000. I was eligible for the 2018 draft, and yeah, I wasn't drafted, unfortunately. Zadina was, and 22 is a really young age for a player to be out there and being at his quote-unquote best. It's just for Zadina, he's had such a long time exposed to and in NHL, AHL systems that it's difficult to really say that patience should be the virtue here. I mean, Dominik Kubalik is 27. Back when Kubalik was 22 years old, let's take a look at where he was in 2017-18. He was still in the Czechia League and in the Swiss League. He was over a point per game in both of those leagues, but then again, it took him 2-ish more years for him to be a mainstay NHL guy. And you could debate that he could have been an NHL guy a lot sooner. It's just that he hadn't chosen to come over to North America again after his stints in Europe. But for Kubalik and what he is right now, it's not really like the Red Wings have a win now window where they need to capitalize and make the playoffs and win the cup today. They obviously have time to wait for Raymond, for Seider, for Edvinsson, for Soderblom, for everybody to be at their peak. It's just for Kubalik, he's young enough that if you wanted to say, okay, we gotta wait until Joe Veleno and the other 2018 draftees, Filip Zadina included, are 25, 26 years old, and it's gonna be 2026 by then. I mean, at that time, Kubalik's 30, 31, that's definitely not too old to keep around on a contending team's roster, and if he plays as well as he's been playing right now to kick off the year for the remainder of that time, things could be pretty good. I mean, you gotta remember, he signed on until 2024, so it's only a 2-year deal at $2.5 million a season, but he's on pace for 130 points. Obviously, he's not gonna get that, as I said, but if you get a player that's playing as well like this, at 2.5, that's a pretty good bargain. So Kubalik has been one of these top forwards on the team, and I feel like it's time to give him his spotlight. I know we have given him the spotlight a ton in the past, especially in all the trade videos. Oh, is Kubalik going to go over to Edmonton? Let's talk about the Blackhawks trading him there and all this other stuff that didn't come to fruition because the Blackhawks let him go for free, which I'm still not over. But either way, if you're a Red Wings fan, talk in the comments all your thoughts about Dominik Kubalik, the Filip Zadina comparisons, and what you've been impressed by so far. Maybe not even just with Kubalik, but with any of the new guys. You could say Sundqvist, you could say Mata, you could say David Perron, you could say anybody else that has been here. I know Andrew Kopp kind of needs to get things going a little bit, but you could say the same thing about Seider and Raymond. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.